We need a government that can fit inside of our Constitution.
All right, so you probably clicked on this link because of the title, which was Democrats Like Poor People. Well, I'm going to show you in this video how much they like poor people, that they just really like to make them all the time. The poorer you are, the easier you are to control. I mean, if you have to struggle for money and all those kind of things, then, you know, if you're standing in a bread line waiting for your government cheese, you're going to have to do the things the government wants you to do. I mean, how can you protest and basically be on all the government subsidies? So they want to keep you as poor as possible. So what they want to do is they're going to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour. I've read a lot of articles on this subject, and none of them is going to hit it quite like this one's going to, because, you know, you always hear the Democrats talk about, like, hey, let's look at the science. Well, I'm going to show you the math of what happens when you raise the minimum wage up to $15 an hour. So kind of just to start it all off, I just want to explain that most businesses work on marginal profits. And so what that generally means is if you buy something for 50 cents, then you're going to double it. And so when you double it, you'd sell it for $1. So no matter what my cost becomes, I'm going to double it, because that's how you maintain profitability. If you don't have profits, then you're no longer in business. And, you know, I've had several successful businesses, and believe me, this is exactly how it works. You know, if the government passes a cost to me, I'm going to pass it to you and double it. And part of the reason why I have to double it is because as, you know, cost of goods goes up, or inflation, money's worth less. So as money's worth less, I also have to make more. You have to make more. Doesn't really matter if we all make more money if everything costs more. So, I mean, I could pay you $300 an hour, but it isn't going to do you any good if a loaf of bread is $700. So anyways, I'm going to give you a real life example of restaurant math today. Now, I have quite a bit of experience in this, and, you know, you can look up what I'm about to tell you, but the general restaurant math is 3 times the cost of goods. Okay, so I'm going to give you a $10 sandwich meal cost profit breakdown. So you can see over here in the very first line, you gotta remember it's 3 times the cost of goods. And so how this breaks out for a restaurant on a $10 sandwich is 1/3 of your cost is going to be the goods. And so that's generally around $3.33. These are all going to be, you know, general, not exact numbers. Obviously there's like a penny missing there. Okay. So the cost of labor should also be 1/3, which is going to be $3.33. So now I have a profit per sandwich of $3.33. Now that sounds like a lot, but you got to remember that what comes out of my profit is also whatever taxes I owe the government, rents, mortgages, equipment breakdown, you know, just unforeseen costs, things that just really don't go in the goods and labor column. So even though it says I'm going to make $3.33 a sandwich, it never quite works out like that. But still, just to make yourself a profitable restaurant, this is the math you have to follow. If you don't follow this math, then you're pretty much done before you even get started. All right, well, I'm obviously terrible at running this thing here. Okay, so right off the bat, $15 minimum wage. You can see there that in my labor column, it's doubled. So instead of $3.33, now I'm $6.66, interestingly enough. So if I'm going to keep a $10 sandwich, I just lost all my profit. I would have to sell it to you at cost. So, you know, I could try to hold that for a while to make my customers happy, but I can only do that as long as my savings holds out. And, to be honest, you're probably not going to go to work for free. I'm not going to go to work for free. So there's going to have to be a market correction there. So what you got to realize too is, so since my labor doubled, a lot of other people's labor is going to double too. So with the $15 an hour minimum wage hike, that increased my cost by 30%. So in this next demonstration, you can see my labor has already doubled, but you got to remember that other people are going to have to raise their prices too, just like I did. And so my first price increase is I'm going to inject 30% more into my price of goods. So now when I add it all up, if I'm willing to lose $1 a sandwich, then I can still keep it at 10 bucks. And remember, the price corrections they're just going to keep coming, but this is just like what's going to happen in the short term, like the initial adjustments. So, okay, so I'm going to restore my profit margin here. And so you got to remember, it's a third, a third, and a third. And now these numbers, they don't match up real nice anymore, but if you add up the goods and the labor, they equal about 10 bucks. So you add 5 bucks to that, then you got a third, and a third. So all of a sudden, we got a $15 sandwich. Started at 10, now we're at 15. Okay, but so now look what happened though. I went from 10 to 15. So my overall product price went up by 50%. So now in the next one, I'm going to show you, well, if everybody else goes up 50%, I would actually bring my price of goods up to $4.99 plus the labor. Then to even it all out, I'm going to need my profit to be at $5.82 now, which is going to leave me a grand total of $17.47. So I had a $10 sandwich. The government doubled my wage. Now I'm at $17.47 for a meal. So you're sitting here saying, oh man, look at all this extra money I'm making. Yeah, but you didn't really, because all that happened is everything in the world adjusted to the labor cost, because I'm not going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it. Biden isn't paying for it. You're paying for it. So now there's probably some other aspects that you're not thinking about here too. So if you were making minimum wage and now you jumped up to 15 bucks an hour, now you're going to pay higher tax bracket. So a bigger percentage of your money is going to go to the government. Then you're not going to qualify for as much of the food stamps and welfare and, whatever you got, the help with your gas bill and electric bill and all those other things. So, really, I think if you're the person going for a minimum wage up to 15 bucks an hour, the best thing that can happen for you is that you could break even. You actually will have no effect whatsoever, because once everything changes in the economy, you're going to still be at poverty. It will not raise you out of poverty for more than about 5 minutes. Because like you can see, it's not like, business owners aren't being jerks here. You can see that if I went with the government's plan, they're putting me out of business. So I have no choice except for to go ahead and change my bottom line and all my numbers to match. And that's what everybody's going to do. It's not going to just be me. It's going to be everybody. So I'll pay more, you'll pay more. But that's the worst part about it. So let's say you made, 16 bucks an hour. So now all of a sudden you didn't get a raise, but everybody else went to 15. So you're making the exact same amount of money that you used to make, but almost everything in the world went up 50%, 75%, maybe even 100% or more. So now who's in the poverty level? Probably everybody from 15 bucks an hour to like 22 bucks an hour. So, it really didn't have much effect except for it pulled more people into the poverty class. And I think this is what the Democrats really want, because, under a communist plan, we'd all make the same wage. I mean, if they went with a $30 an hour wage, then, you'd have, a lot of engineers and doctors and, all kinds of, higher paying job people, they would all be drugged down to the poverty level, because this is what would happen. The price of everything would change. You can't just raise the minimum wage to pull people out of poverty. And in fact, the reality is the poverty class has the opportunity to raise up to the middle class. But if you keep raising the minimum wage, pretty soon you just get rid of the middle class. So then there's just an upper class and a lower class. Well, the more you raise that minimum wage, the further apart the higher class and the lower class get. So pretty soon you just have all of us in the poverty class, and then you'd have people like Biden who are living in mansions. These, kind of like Iraq, Saddam Hussein with the big palaces, and everybody else is living in total poverty. Well, that's the system of the world. That's what made us different, is that, we're a little smarter. We're giving people the opportunity. The reality is, if you want to bring people out of being poor, you should probably lower the minimum wage. Because if you already have someone working a minimum wage and then the government says, minimum wage, $5. Well, they're probably going to maintain it at the minimum wage of $8 or, whatever it is in your state. And whatever you're paying them before. But then the price of goods are going to go down. And so then then businesses, because we always compete against each other, we're going to be like, oh, my costs are down, I can lower my price a little bit, and I'll try to beat out the next guy, Like McDonald's will lower their price to try to shave out Burger King and that kind of thing. So, and just to kind of prove this point, or to make the point, and I know there are other factors in inflation, like printing money and things like that, but when I was a kid, I could buy a hamburger for 19 cents. And I also worked for like $1.86 an hour, because I think I got paid like half minimum wage, which was like $3 something, because I was a minor. But I got the ability to work and learn a skill, and I had an entry level into the workplace. And so then when I went for a real job, I could show, hey, I did these other things. And people were like, oh man, you only made $1.86? Yeah, I did, but $1.86 bought a lot. I mean, even video games down the arcade, 25 cents or whatever. Maybe they were even cheaper than that. I don't even remember. And now if I go to the arcade with my boy, it's like $1.50 or something to play a game for a few minutes. And then you don't even get the free guys or any of that stuff. So, all they're really doing here is they're just feeding on everybody's emotions, because everyone's like, oh man, this is going to be so great. $15 an hour. I mean, I've heard it so many times. So I really wanted to show this. Okay, so I found this neat little article in CNN, believe it or not. I can't even believe this. I saw something similar to it in The Hill, so maybe they just kind of copied The Hill. But anyways, when you go through this article, you can see here, if you kind of follow, I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but basically what they go through in the stats is they say 70% of poor adults didn't work at all, and a mere 10% of the American poor held down a full-time job for a year. So what this really says is that, the reason people are poor isn't necessarily because they're making minimum wage. They're poor because they're not working. So just go to work, man. That's all you gotta do. It's just that easy. So I want to give you another aspect of this, which is this is going to kill the tipping industry, because, I do pay minimum wage to my wait staff, but they make such good money because of the tips. We have really good food at our restaurant, and so the girls get good tips. And so the reality is that they're probably going to take a pay cut, because if people have to pay more money, then they're either going to not tip at all, or they're not going to tip well. So, there's that aspect too. And so all of those waitresses and bartenders and everything out there, they're going to take a huge pay hit. Not only will their wage be lowered, right? But what's going to happen is they're also going to have all their cost of goods go up. So you're going to make all these people way poorer. So back to this fancy thing. Okay, so now here's the other aspect that's going to happen. So if everybody's pretty much making the same wage, and I have a 16-year-old with no experience come in, or a 30-year-old that's got, say, 10, 15 years of waitressing experience, I'm probably going to hire the person with the more experience. And so what's going to really happen is, a lot of the younger generation, they're not going to really have these jobs because they're going to get cut out of the marketplace. But I wanted to show you also kind of how that's going to work as far as like a, normal business, a restaurant, any kind of business, because you have to figure out how much you got to make a day really to even have an employee. A lot of people don't do that. They'll just start a business and, next thing you know, they got 3 employees and then they're broke. And then they're like, oh, I don't know why I'm broke. Well, because you got to make a certain amount per day in order to pay these people that you have on your payroll. So the interesting thing about paying somebody minimum wage is that's not the end of it for a business owner, because you got to do matching funds, you got workers' comp, you got unemployment insurance, you got so much stuff that if you're paying someone minimum wage, your real labor cost is almost $13 an hour. I don't know what it is exactly right now. It's probably like $12.70 or something like that. But so you can see that if my labor cost on someone making minimum wage is $13 an hour and they work an 8-hour shift, that's $104. Okay, so we'll just call it 100, make it easy. So remember, labor, product, and profit. 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So if I have someone for 8 hours, it's going to take $100 worth of product, which would also generate me then $100 worth of profit. So if I did $1,200 in a day, then potentially I could have 4 employees. Now remember, you don't get all that profit, right? Because you got other expenses you got to pay out of your profit, but that's kind of the formula right there. So the next scenario that's going to happen is I'm going to have a lot of unhappy customers, because when they pull in, they say, sorry, bro, sandwich today, $15. And they're going to be, oh, no, man, you can't charge that. That's robbery. And look, man, the labor went up. Yeah, you're a crook. Well, hopefully they'll go watch this video so they can see why it's going to happen that way. It's not because business owners are crooks. It's because it takes profit to survive. I know everyone wants to say profit's a bad word. But anyways, so now it puts more pressure on me. I know I'm going to get more per sandwich and all those things. But now, somewhere between $550, $600 I'm going to have to gross per employee. So instantly overnight, I'm going to have to do the exact same amount of sales. Like if you were normally going to sell 100 sandwiches at $10, so you'd have $1,000. Well, that's roughly enough to hire 3 people. Well, now I'd have to do, almost $2,000 to hire 3 people. And so if less people are going to come, so I don't do 100 sandwiches a day. So all of a sudden, let's say I drop down to 1,200. Well, now I can only have 2 people on shift. So now I have a choice. I either cut everybody's hours and I balance them amongst everybody, or I cut somebody and I got to lay them off. And then I lay them off and my unemployment insurance goes up. See how this all works? So, we might want to really think about why we're doing $15 an hour minimum wage, because, from an economic standpoint, it doesn't make any sense for anybody. Poor people are going to stay poor. Middle class are going to get poorer. Man, even people in the upper class are going to get poorer, because they're going to pay out more everywhere they go. They're going to pay out more when they go buy a hamburger. So the moral of this story is Democrats like poor people. They love them. So if you want to be poor, keep on hitting that Democrat button. If you want this message to get out to more people, you're going to have to do what it says there on the bottom. Like, share, subscribe, and comment. I mean, that's how YouTube works. If you don't do that stuff, this message doesn't get out. The more people that get this message, the safer you're going to be. Because you're going to have a lot more people with some common sense out there that really understand the subject, and they're not just listening to what the newspapers say, because the newspapers are pretty vague. You know, they're saying, oh, it'll pull these people out of poverty. Yeah, we'll lose some jobs. Well, I disagree with all that. As you can see by this video, it's going to make everybody poorer, and we're going to lose a lot of jobs. So, all right, bring on the poorness.
We need a government that can fit inside of our Constitution.